Welcome to another CHRO Conversation, hosted by the Center for Executive Succession at the Darla Moore School of Business. I'm your host, Anthony Nyberg, and today we are speaking with Lisa Buckingham, Executive Vice President, CHRO, and Head of Brand and Enterprise Communication of Lincoln Financial Group, a company that is ranked number 25 by assets on the Fortune 500 list. Lisa, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a great treat and pleasure to have you here with us.
It's great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
So recently you have changed title, and the title now is EVP and Chief People, Place, and Brand Officer. Can you say a little bit about why you've added these additional aspects to your HR role and what that really means from an HR perspective?
Well, we keep saying that it's super cool because now what we've done is we've taken the human resources piece of it. So people are our most important asset, and that we've also said where we work and how we work are really, really important. And so we're looking at that from the standpoint of in this title, but I'll talk to you about the strategy in a moment. And then I already had corporate marketing and brand and advertising, and so we made it a little bit shorter from the standpoint of brand to say, so it's people, place, and brand. And what it really is, it's all around the employee experience, it's where we're located. And from a strategic perspective, we believe that if we put all of this into one functional area, and trust me, I have amazing people surrounding me for these areas, that we can really look at today and the future very, very differently. From the standpoint of, from the place perspective, we're looking more about what could we do remotely, what employees want from their day-to-day lives. And from a brand perspective, we believe that the brand piece, which I've had that responsibility for about 6 years now, we've continued to pull that together from the standpoint of employee value proposition from a recruiting perspective, and as well as our partners and our policy holders. So we just really want to have one message out into the marketplace. So it's a really exciting opportunity, and just trying to figure out how it all means and what do we do next.
So it's pretty unusual for at least to have that in the title, to have all of these responsibilities. Does this give you or Lincoln Financial some extra mechanism for thinking about how people actually drive business success?
We think so. So I think that this is from a strategic perspective. I sat in our business unit strategy meetings in our functional areas just recently, and I was starting to tick how many times we talked about talent, how many times we spoke about brand, how many times that we talked about locations and what are we doing, and where are we moving. We just had a large acquisition, and we're building a really cool space there in Boston. And so these are things that we believe that will help continue to build our engagement, more exposure, more awareness about who Lincoln is and what we do, and really keeping that people piece. Our employees are who we are. Our employees are the ones who pick up the phone when a policyholder has a question about their 401k, about their annuity, about group benefits. Somebody might be calling in for a life-death claim. We have amazing human beings that are our employees that we want to make sure that we're creating the best workplace environment ever. So we're excited about it.
So you were just talking about being actively engaged in thinking about the strategy of the organization going forward. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those strategic challenges or opportunities are that you see, and how HR can help drive success in those areas?
What are the skills of the future? Biggest one. So when I'm ticking on what I'm hearing from our business units and what their challenges are, if we don't have the best in class workforce, we're not going to have the competitive edge. So what do? Do you buy that skill? Do you build that skill? We're thinking about what are our current day skills that we need and to continue to operate as well as we have been. But what are we looking at around the corner? So digitization has been a very big thing for us. Technology, implementations, transformation. Our clients and our employees want a different way to work with us. So digital is a big deal. Mobile devices are a big deal. That doesn't mean we're taking the human out of human resources, but it means what we're really doing is making sure that we're giving our clients and our employees options on how to be the most productive when they're working with Lincoln.
So, and as you transform and take more advantage of these opportunities, like being more digital, and as you talked about doing things more systematically and over the phone and that sort of thing, what are the competencies you want from your HR professionals to actually be able to lead in that space?
So I remember when I came on board 10 years ago, it was, I want everybody to have really deep organizational development skills because we're in the midst of a transformation. We were in the belly of the beast of the financial crisis. So what we had to do is zig and zag and make sure that we were helping enable the business strategies on whatever we needed to do. Was that restructuring? Was it looking at different org designs, spans of control? How do we go to market with our clients? How do we ensure people know that we're here for the long run and that Lincoln is a viable organization? And those were really big things. And what came out of that was like strategic communications became a core competency for us. We needed to make sure that our policyholders, our employees knew we were here for the long haul. So that was really important. And we weren't giving stories. We were giving good examples and the whats and the whys. And we really did a great job from the standpoint of retaining our top talent, retaining our top strategic partners and our policyholders. So that's one, if I just take a step back and look there. Today, what we're saying is from a skill set, specifically in human resources, you gotta be agile. You have to really understand change leadership and be one of those change leaders. We need to transfer skill sets into the businesses because we're there to help. We're an enabler for the business, but the business leaders need to lead their business. So the change leadership, agility, digitization, getting really closer to understanding technology. We're not asking everybody to be a code programmer, but what we're saying is there's a new operating model in the future. So digitization is the future, and we all have to understand that. We have to understand how to get people there, and we also have to ensure that we're communicating how we do that and working in different operating models. If you think about it, today Lincoln uses third parties to deliver some of our work. We didn't do that in the past. So this is how do you work virtually? How do you work with a third party firm? And through the implementation, we've had many of our strategic partners come in and help us and transfer skills to our employees, and at the same time, they're taking some of those ideas back to say, hey, this really worked at Lincoln, now how do we digitize it? So it's really been a really awesome transformation.
So you mentioned a number of things that you're looking for in your HR professionals.
Yeah.
Are you able to find those easily? Is there
a tough one.
Secret sauce
Anthony,
for where to get
this is
these
so
people?
tough. Yes, we do find people that are really great HR practitioners. Sometimes they might come more from a business side that we can train some of the HR skills. We've hired some amazing people from academia, and we're very, very excited about that as well. So really putting a lot of diversity on our team, especially diversity of thought, as well as just diversity and inclusion in general is a huge strategic priority for our entire company. But specifically in HR, I'm very proud to say we don't have a cookie cutter organization. And so for me, when I'm hiring, if I think about an HR business partner, a home run to me is that they want to get incredibly inculcated in our business. They have financial acumen. They have the ability to work through our organizational model in human resources. And what that is we have HR business partners embedded in the businesses, and we have centers of expertise. So we need to make sure that we can all work really well together. And it's magic when it happens. But finding people that want to come into an organization like Lincoln, we're domestic, and so that's been a challenge, but then we get to a place of it actually really works. So from the standpoint of having a great team, I'm very, very proud of my human resources organization.
Are there really unique challenges of being HR in the financial industry? It sounds like it, because part of what they need to have is financial acumen, which is not always associated with HR.
The answer is yes. There's regulatory, there's compliance, there's FINRA. There's a lot of things that we need to make sure that folks can come in and feel that they're still part of a really amazing culture, but they're not going to be on Facebook during the day. You just can't do that at our work. That's just a small example, but culturally, that worries some people because we're taking away part of their day-to-day activities. We figure it out. People have time, and we're protecting the assets of many, many people and billions of dollars of assets. So, of course, we have to follow certain things. From a financial acumen, we're not asking everybody to come in as an actuary in human resources, but they have to understand the premise of what we do, how we operate, how we make money, and who we are. So from that perspective, there are folks that have chosen not to want to learn that, and there's a high learning curve there. I remember when I first came on board, I came out of information technology and information services. I remember just writing down all these different words that people were writing, and I was like, I don't know these words. And my husband is a CFO, and he gave me this CFO handbook. It was maybe the best, onboarding tool I had, and of course my CEO and our CFO and the board helped me along the way. But you have to love what we do to be in this.
So it sounds very parallel to what you were describing in terms of the need to understand the digitalization, right? So they don't have to be programmers, as you said, but they have to at least understand and appreciate the digital side, the technology side, the finance side. So it sounds like you become a really well-rounded HR professional in a job like this.
Well, absolutely. It's been a complete gift. It's also had to push me to raise my game to continue learning. And, I would say that I think we all have to have intellectual curiosity every single day on either things at work or outside of work, because it will make us better people and better at what we do. From that perspective, I have to say, learning what digitization can do and help us accelerate or make processes more streamlined, that's number one. From that perspective, what we did was we took a step back and said, let's do design thinking labs. And we have gotten small groups of professionals together in different areas where we said, we need to work on this process. So we will have a 2-day workshop, and we'll have great ideation coming out of that. And then we say, can this be digitized? And that doesn't mean that all these jobs are going away. It means that we're all going to work differently. So the work that you're going to be doing might be higher levels of work. So that skill building has to happen as well. So design thinking and agile pods they've been king for us. It's been really great.
So one of the underlying mechanisms that it sounds like all of these people need to have is some appreciation, understanding of analytics. Can you say a little bit about how that has transformed maybe the HR profession overall, but certainly at Lincoln?
I'll focus on workforce analytics first. I also lead the consumer insights group. I have amazing people that do the actual day-to-day work with our business units. But workforce analytics, we're just at the beginning of where we are. So we've been able to pull together, and we do use a third party to pull all of our human resources data to really start looking at our results differently through different lenses, really being able to go and talk to our businesses in a different language from the analytics and just the results in general. I was at a conference last week, and 4 incredibly smart workforce analytics leads from really large companies came in, and they were talking about the future of analytics and where we are. What I will tell you, I'm pretty excited because we're pretty much there in our thinking. But we're also thinking about what are the ethics around the data analytics? What is the governance? How do we use this data? Because what we want to make sure is that we're using it for the right reasons and for building our business and building engagement and building our workforce. So that's really, really important. From a workforce analytics perspective, we can hit a button now. And if somebody says, I need this data, can you show me what kind of turnover, and many, many companies have had this in the past, but we now have it real time, And it creates a faster conversation, and it actually fills in blanks when somebody's building their strategy. And I actually think that it reinforces the importance of the HR role at that strategic table. And they're bringing something that can help either say, this is a great idea, or, hey, let's take a step back because this is what the data is showing. If I think about the future of work, somebody used last week an example of Waze, the Waze app, and they said, think big picture about in human resources, is there going to be a Waze app for employees? And is there something that you're looking at companies of where to go to based on your skill set or your scores? And I mean, it was, and your data inputs, this is exciting times. I mean, I keep thinking about that was one of the biggest kernels of really cool stuff. But it has to be actionable. We of course do innovation, we do ideation, but we have to pay for ourselves and what we deliver into the organization. So it's really important that our data is good, and that we can create a really good narrative. And at times it helps us when there's a competitive issue that's happening, or high turnover or too low turnover. We can find out what else do we need to look at. Is it learning and development? Is it different types of learning? So data analytics is a huge piece of the future, and I do think that each of us have to have high competence in that and an interest in it.
Yes, and I think you just gave a number of examples of why that has to be HR professionals with that data analytics and not just PhDs in statistics that can come over, right? Yeah. One of them being the ethical question, right? We see a lot of examples now of how easy it is to collect all this data, but then when should you use it? When are you actually sacrificing your employees' anonymity, et cetera?
Yeah, and this is a big deal for me, and I've been talking to a lot of my peers from the outside to say, should we just get a group of folks together with analytics professionals to say, what's the data we need? Some of it's interesting, but what is the ethics around it? Are we pulling information from Outlook? Are we looking at people's schedules? Are we doing that? And now we're tracking that's a potential turnover because maybe they're interviewing somewhere. I'm not sure how I feel about that. We need to make sure that we're using it for the benefit of the organization, our shareholders, our policyholders, and our employees. And there needs to be some trust to it.
Yes, for sure. And I think that's the big part of HR, right, is making sure there is that trust in the organization.
Trust and integrity. And that sounds simple, but, some of our roles, and I didn't talk about this morning, but when I think about, how have I been in human resources for 31 years, it's because I'm trustworthy. I know how to hold a confidence. I know when I need to push somebody on a conversation to get to the underlining area. And these are things that maybe we're not thinking about as much, but when I think about bringing individuals into the organization, we can't be that area that there might be a leak. It just can't happen. There's zero tolerance in my function for that.
HR, the keepers of trust and integrity. I like that. Okay. So one of the things that you've touched on a few times now in terms of what you want in your professionals is this agility. And I know we've spoken a little bit about what that means in terms of willingness to move around or to take on challenges that maybe seem like a real stretch. Can you say a little bit about what that means?
Sure. And I again, I'm trying to parlay some of my experiences from the past, but I've moved to many, many different states for different roles as I was building my career and my skills toolbox. And it's an interesting phenomenon right now that we have less mobility, that people are just saying, I don't want to move. And I feel that we have to crack that nut, because some of this is moving to different places or an expat assignment outside of the U.S. We all grow from that, and that you're rounding your skills. So for me, I get how life is today. I have an 11-year-old. I understand The worst thing I can ever think about is sitting down and telling him, hey, we're moving at this point in 6th grade. But when he was 2, I moved from Connecticut to Philadelphia. And I had moved many times before that, and I have lived overseas. But I'm not sure what's happening with this. And we have to figure that out as a overall function. And I know that I have great colleagues that I can, work through understanding a little bit more. At one company I worked for, if you said no to moves twice, you were taken off the hypo list and said you're going to be an experienced professional. So maybe that's the way to go. I'm not sure, because if there's awesome talent, you want to keep that talent, but we have to figure it out. But I also think that we're rounding out our skills, as I mentioned, by moving. The other thing I think is moving inside and outside of HR, because that's, again, a place where you can build your skills and go and have a deeper understanding of the business drivers. I'm always thrilled when we're exporting talent out of human resources into a business unit, because I feel that that's a big win for us. That says a lot about the individual skills. Again, we want them back, and I have an example of that recently, and I'm thrilled to have them back. But we have to continue to be very, very laser focused on making sure that each individual is building their skill sets, and it has to be intentional.
Lisa, thank you very much for your time today and for coming down to Columbia. We sincerely appreciate having you here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
You just listened to another CHRO conversation. Today, Lisa Buckingham of the Lincoln Financial Group shared her views regarding some of the unique challenges that exist for HR in the financial services industry. As we see once again, HR leaders must be creative, courageous, and understand the strategic goals of the organization. On behalf of all of us who are associated with the Master of Human Resources program and the Center for Executive Succession here at the University of South Carolina, thank you for joining us.